of us at some point in our lives lived with a complete stranger and shared most intimate daily routines and even forced into friendships just because we happen to share a condo. But whenever we're living with someone who we have no clue about their past or even their current situation, it can be really stressful and uncomfortable to be around them. And the fact that it's literally impossible to avoid them and go on with your day, you'll be forced to at least make an effort and make things less awkward by making small talk and sharing to some degree. Even though disagreements are part of life, it can really take a toll on someone to fight with a person you barely know. Disagreements may range from paying bills to cleaning routines to sharing tools, and even get personal as a result of sharing too much with one another or not knowing what the other person's pet peeves are. Things can get ugly and end up affecting work and personal life in a negative way. But all these are perhaps what most people go through until they can finally have the financial means to live on their own and not deal with such inconveniences. And while this may seem annoying, they pale in comparison to the types of roommate behaviors we're about to share with you. These are 10 characteristics of people to watch out for and roommate behaviors that if you tolerate for too long can simply ruin your life. But before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos that we upload every single day. And don't forget to share your craziest roommate stories down in the comment section below. Something is off. If you have a nagging feeling in your gut that there's something strange about your new roommate, don't ignore that feeling. It might just save you from a lot of trouble in the future. Many of us will be excited and optimistic about living on our own and finally become independent, especially if you're young and you've been waiting for an exciting life full of fun and adventure. This includes letting many new people in your life and making new friendships along the way. And having a roommate that can share your interests and hobbies and later turn into a meaningful relationship can be really exciting. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. And sometimes it can be something you can't put your finger on or even understand correctly, but have a constant uneasy feeling about the person next room. Don't blame yourself for feeling this way without reason. Sometimes our sixth sense can do a much better job in figuring out what a person is really like behind the curtains. Your things suddenly start to disappear. You're going to school, you're working, and you have an amazing apartment that you share with a cool roommate you enjoy hanging out with. But your things are suddenly leaving the apartment and you can't remember where you last seen them. You suspect the only other person in the room, but you don't dare mention it for fear that it might cause problems. And even though you should handle this in a smart way, ignoring it or trying to put locks in every possible item will simply not work. In fact, it will create more problems, especially if your roommate is a pro at this and has no moral values. They'll only get more curious and get creative. So if you're absolutely sure that your innocent-looking roommate is stealing from you, it's better to confront them, just the two of you. And if you don't have the strength to face them like that, just leave the vicinity as soon as possible before you lose something irreplaceable. No boundaries. You might be a party animal and have 1,000 people surrounding you all the time. But there are certain boundaries you don't want crossed even with the closest people in your life. And that's how it should be. And when your roommate is insisting they sleep in your bed because they're not feeling good or are busting in while you're getting ready for work, it's necessary to talk to them about your feelings. It might be all fun and joke at first, but having them invade your space all the time can lead to resentment and end your relationship, which can be pretty awkward considering you'll have to face them all the time. When people invade your privacy, they'll not only take your time and share your things uninvited, they'll also intrude on your personal life and get into your private affairs in many different ways. You should not allow this to go on for a long time because it would mean that you're willingly allowing another person to influence your decisions and denying yourself the freedom to think for yourself. Strange personality. This can range from being too protective of their things to putting a security camera to monitor the surrounding and trying to control what goes on in the apartment all the time. They may also sometimes be jumpy and start arguments out of nowhere. Of course, we all have moments of outburst and insecurity, but when this is a trend and you notice that it gets worse with time, there's only one thing left to do for you. It's to pack your bags and run for the door. It's important for you to realize that you don't owe anything to them and that you have the right to live a toxic living environment before it gets out of hand. Tell us if you've had a similar experience with a roommate in the comment section below, and also tell us how you resolved the issue. Too nice. Sometimes when things seem too good to be true, it's because they are. If you think you're too nice and feel you have a character flaw, don't beat yourself up. The fact that you put everybody's needs before yours does not mean you're weak or crazy. But when someone you barely know is offering to do all your errands and spending way too much time talking about your life and being too nice, it definitely is a red flag which needs your attention. They may simply be nice, helpful, and handy, but if you're not willing to make the same effort to do the same for them, this can be a problem in the future. Because whenever someone does something for you, whether they say it out loud or not, they'll definitely feel like you owe them something. And in the case the person is calculating and was simply nice to you to get you to do something for them later on, can be a trap you cannot escape. Leaves you notes every day. It's normal for your emotionally challenged roommate to leave you notes on the fridge every now and then instead of talking to you. And sometimes it may actually be better to communicate your needs to a person you don't know well enough through sticky notes. And can also be a great way to mention things that you'd rather have on writing and avoid direct confrontation. But when your roommate is leaving you note after note and they make no effort to talk to you at all, you have to be wary of this behavior, especially if the notes are mostly about to-do lists or favors, as they may be doing this to get you to do things for them out of guilt. They're never home. So as much as you should worry about your clingy types, the ones that are never in their room and are gone for days is a red flag you should look into as soon as possible. This is because when you rarely see them or never talk to them, you don't know what they're up to and where they're spending their time. And even though it's not necessary for you to be nosy and go through their things in order to find out what they're up to, it's definitely worth looking into their past, whether by directly asking them or by paying attention to what they're bringing home when they come home, and watch out for drastic changes in their appearance and activities. And if you feel like they're doing something that might cause problems for you and you're uncomfortable in your own house, you should be aware that this might not just be an awfully quiet or private person, but might be into things that could get you and themselves in serious trouble. Jealousy. A jealous roommate might show it by awkward conversations and sabotaging your plans. They may even intentionally cause the destruction of your belongings and can be all over your business, including your relationship with others. They're unable to live their own lives because they're obsessing about your life, and whatever they think you possess, they cannot have. And because they will not openly tell you about their feeling, you might mistake it for being your fault that they're angry and disappointed. You can't let this get too far because it won't only affect you. Other close friends of yours and your girlfriend or your boyfriend might also be affected, as most jealous people will be more emotionally invested in other people's human relations than materials they own. Sneaking up on you. If your roommate is peeping through your door and startling you in the middle of your chores and is asking how you're doing, you're better off without them. Not only will they make you uncomfortable in your own apartment, they'll also create a toxic environment by constantly watching your daily activities. It's certainly not a good feeling to have someone sneaking up on you all the time. They may not only be a little too curious, but may have other things in their minds. And if this behavior persists, it's not just a little obsession or a crush on your roommate's side. It might be something sinister, and you have to be careful not to be a victim of any evil plan. There's the option of telling them to their faces about their inappropriate behavior, but getting away from them quick is your best option. Sends confusing signals. Happy one moment and very grumpy the next minute. Offering to do your laundry one day and lose their temper over a simple issue the next day. This inconsistent behavior will not be easy to deal with, even if most of the time your roommate is cool and fun to be around. They may not be all bad, and life might be good in your apartment as long as your roommate is okay. But when the moment comes and they're showing a completely different side of themselves, that's when you should stand up for yourself and set them straight. And unless you've done something wrong, no one has the right to treat you according to their moods. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button, and click on the bell to be notified for our daily content, and thanks for watching.